Okay, so usually when a massive game like Resident Evil Requiem drops, the conversation follows a pretty standard script. It's the comfortable rhythm of the gaming industry. New product, new features, pre order bonuses. You talk about frame rates. You argue about whether the jump scares are cheap or earned. It's the standard hype cycle. And look, I was as hyped as anyone, and I've loved seeing Leon Kennedy back in the jacket, kicking down doors. But today, I'm doing something completely different. I'm stepping way outside the marketing straight into a philosophical minefield because I'm not doing a review. I'm not telling you if it's worth your $70. What I'm doing is a forensic deep dive into the ending of the game. I know that sounds a bit backwards, but wait until you hear the material. I've got a stack of documents here to tell you a very specific, very strange story. I have an interview with the director Kiyoshi Nakanishi, details regarding the Arc Lab finale, comparisons to the game Star Blade, and a really fascinating, honestly kind of dense essay on something called virtual ontology by Nicholas Norman Adams. And when I weave those disparate threads together, they point to a conclusion that is going to sound absolutely crazy to the average Resident Evil fan. The core conflict I'm looking at is the ending. Resident Evil Requiem offers two paths. There is a good ending where our hero, Leon Kennedy, survives. Then there is a bad ending where he dies. Standard gamer logic says survival equals winning. You want the hero to live. But my mission today is to prove that that logic is actually wrong. I'm going to argue that the so called bad ending, the one where Leon dies, is actually the only morally successful conclusion. And the good ending, it's a trap, a narrative trap, a philosophical trap. It's a trap of nostalgia, false hope, and corporate control. Let's unpack this and dive right in to understand why the ending matters. I think I have to start with how the game is actually played. The mechanics here are telling a story before the cutscenes even start. In this interview with director Nakanishi from Game Informer, he drops a detail about the gameplay that sounds cool on paper but has this weird implication. Leon has a chainsaw, which for fans of Resident Evil 4 is a massive turning of the tables. Usually, you're the one running from the chainsaw guy, right? After years of running away from the burn lab sack guys, Leon finally has to pick one up. But Nakanishi explains why. He says, quote, the zombies actually retain some memory of their life before because they remember how to use tools. They use chainsaws, and because they use them, Leon can use them. This is the first breadcrumb. Do not gloss over that memory part. In previous games, zombies were biological machines, just eating and screeching. Here, they are trapped in a loop of their past behaviors. They are reenacting their lives. Nakanishi mentions you can see them doing tasks they were responsible for pre death, which is incredibly creepy. It's not just a monster, it's a ghost of a person. It kind of blurs the line between the enemy and the victim. They are haunted by their own muscle memory, and the game structure actually reinforces this duality. You have Leon, then you have the new character, Grace Ashcroft, who we learn is Spencer's adopted daughter. Her sections are slower, pure horror. The director actually compared Grace's sections to the Resident Evil 2 police station. High tension, low resources, so you have the old school horror and the modern action coexisting in the same package. The game itself is split between the horror of the past and the action of the present. Keep that idea of the zombies in your head. beings trapped by their memories, repeating cycles because they can't let go. That is the thematic bedrock here. If the zombies are trapped in the loop of the past, I have to ask, is the player doing the same thing? That's ominous. But let's look at how I break that loop. This brings me to the R Club finale and the choice involving Elpis. Elpis is named after the Greek spirit of hope. In the myth, hope was the last thing left in Pandora's box after all the evils flew out. In the game, Elpis is a gift from the original franchise villain, Spencer. It's revealed that it's not a virus, but an antivirus designed to purge progenitor based pathogens. Basically, a cure for everything Umbrella ever did. A cure designed by the man who caused the disease. That should be your first red flag. So here are two endings. In the good ending, the one labeled as canon, the player chooses to release Elpis. The result, Leon and Grace survive. The bad guy, Xeno, who is the clone of Albert Wesker with a massive inferiority complex, gets stripped of his powers and killed. High fives all around, sequel setup, credits roll. On the surface, that's the victory condition. You beat the bad guy, you save the girl, you cure the virus. But my analysis comparing the two argues that releasing Elpis is an act of determinism. Okay, determinism. Why is that a bad thing here? Why is curing a virus deterministic? In this context, determinism means you are accepting that your path has been set by someone else. Spencer is dead, but he left this gift. If you use it, you are validating Spencer's worldview. You are accepting that he, the architect of all this misery, gets to decide how it ends. He gets to decide who is clean and who is cured. So by releasing Elpis, you aren't actually fixing the world. You're just updating its operating system to the version Spencer wanted. You're giving one entity a biological monopoly on the cure. You are playing by the villain's rules. Even if the villain isn't the ground, you win the game, but you lose the ideological war. You have accepted that the only way to survive is to use the master's tools. That's a really cynical way to look at a happy ending, but I get it. You win, but you didn't really change anything. Now compare that to the bad ending. In the bad ending, the player destroys Elpis. The containment fails, and the R Club collapses. Leon Kennedy dies, which feels like a total failure. I mean, you spent hours keeping him alive, now he dies in a cutscene. But this analysis argues that this is an act of existential rebellion. Rebellion against whom? The bad guy Xeno? No, rebellion against the entire system. By destroying the cure, Leon rejects the hope offered by the tyrant, who refuses to accept a solution that comes from the root of the problem. It's saying, I would rather die on my own terms than live in a world designed by Umbrella. It's a scorched earth approach, but importantly, it denies Xeno his narrative. In the good ending, Xeno is stripped of power and killed, but in the bad ending, by destroying Elpis, you deny him the satisfaction of his own ego. Xeno wants to control you. You break the world so he can't rule it. It reminds me of that scene in Stellar Blade. This is a fantastic parallel for those who haven't played it. The protagonist, Eve, has a choice at the end. She can merge with Adam, also known as Raphael Marx, to create a new evolved species, or she can kill him. The return to the colony ending is where she kills him. She destroys the potential for a human-android fusion, which feels like the bad ending because you're essentially preventing humanity's evolution. You're choosing stagnation. You're following orders from the mother sphere. It feels totally regressive. That's one way to read it. This is at least my interpretation in a previous video I did on this channel. But the argument from many subscribers to this channel is that she is refusing to become a catalyst for a forced evolution she didn't ask for. She refuses to merge with a corrupt legacy just because it's convenient or because it's the next step written by some mad scientist. So I connect that to Leon. In the good ending, Leon survives. But I have to ask, what does he survive for? To fight in Resident Evil 10, probably. To keep working for the government. He returns to the status quo. He remains a pawn to the BSAA, the government, the shadow organizations. He is a weary soldier in an endless war. He survives, but he doesn't leave. He just waits for the next outbreak. But in the bad ending, his death is a soteriological release. I know, soteriological is a $5 word right here. It's a theological term relating to salvation or deliverance. Usually, we think of salvation as being saved from death. But here, the argument is that death is the salvation because he finally gets the clock out. He finally quits the game. He dies as a man, not as a super agent or a biological asset to be deployed in the next sequel. He finally gets to rest. It's the only way he escapes the cycle of violence. He reclaims his humanity by losing his life. That is dark, but I kind of see the beauty in it. If he lives, he's just waiting for the next nightmare. If he dies, the nightmare ends. And this concept of the nightmare that never ends brings me to the most abstract, but I think the most powerful piece of analysis, the essay by Nicholas Norman Adams on virtual ontology. This piece was dense, I had to read it twice. Adams talks about his own history with Resident Evil starting back in 1996. He argues that we replay these games to pause real life. Virtual ontology is based on a concept from the philosopher Mark Fisher and originally Jacques Derrida. The basic idea is that our culture has stopped inventing the future. Instead, we are just haunted by the specters of the past. We keep remixing and rebooting the same things over and over because we are afraid to move forward. We are trapped in a cultural loop. So Adam applies this to gaming. He says that when we play RE, we aren't just playing a game, we're trying to go home to a time when we felt a specific kind of technological wonder. We are chasing the ghost of how we felt in 1996. We are trying to resurrect our own childhoods. But here is the synthesis, the moment where I connect Adam's theory back to Nakanishi's zombies. Remember what the director said? Zombies retain memories of their past lives. They are repeating actions, holding chainsaws, doing jobs because they're trapped in a memory. The implication here is that the player is the zombie. I know, that hurts a little, but think about it. By demanding the good ending, by demanding that Leon survives, what am I actually asking for? I am demanding that the loop continues. I want the franchise to stay on life support. I want to recycle the same heroes. Chris, Jill, Leon, and the same villains. I mean, Xilo is literally a clone of Wesker. I'm refusing to let the past die because I'm addicted to the nostalgia. So the good ending is basically feeding the ontology. It's keeping the ghosts alive so I can play with them again in 3 years. I am the one forcing them to shuffle around the mansion forever. And that makes the bad ending the cure for ontology. By killing Leon, by destroying the Ark Lab, which is a sort of vessel of the past, you are forcing a true end to the narrative loop. You are breaking the cycle of nostalgia. You are saying the 90s are over. Leon is dead. I have to move on to something new. This is actually kind of heartbreaking. It's like saying goodbye to an old friend because keeping them around is hurting them. And the lore supports this idea that keeping them around is literally hurting them. I have to talk about Raccoon Citizen. This is a plot point that all the survivors of the original Raccoon City incident, Leon, Grace, Claire, all of them, carry a dormant version of the T virus. They are living relics of a bioweapon disaster. They are walking carriers. Their bodies are crime scenes, essentially. And the good ending with Elpis cures this. It cleans them, which sounds very nice. Yay, Leon is cured! But my analysis points out that this cleaning is essentially making them palatable for the world. It's erasing the evidence of their trauma. It's sanitizing history. It's essentially whitewashing the biological horror they went through so they can fit back into society. What about the bad ending? In the bad ending, Leon dies with the syndrome. He accepts the infection as part of his history. By dying, Leon takes the secrets of the syndrome to the grave, preventing the connections or Umbrella Corps from harvesting his blood. That's a powerful image, denying the corporation the raw material. It's a denial of the commodification of human suffering. Think about these characters as products. If Leon lives, he's a product. His blood is still a product for Umbrella, and his character is still a product for Capcom. If he dies, he removes himself from the market. It's the ultimate act of true agency. He stops being a character in Spencer's play and starts being the master of his own demise. It's wild to think about it that way. I usually look at a game over screen or a death scene as a failure state, but in the case of RE9, his death is the only thing Umbrella can't monetize. And look at the alternative. If Leon leaves, what happens? The good ending leads to an extended ending and a true final boss. It gives you more content. It rewards you with more game, which fits the ontology theory perfectly. You choose the status quo. Here, have another boss fight. Have more flashing lights. It satisfies the customer, but it fails the character. The bad ending cuts to black. No catharsis, no reunion. It denies you the dopamine hit, and that is why it feels bad to me as a gamer, but good to me as a moral observer. It's asking me to choose between what I want, more Leon, and what is right, Leon's peace, his freedom. Often looks like destruction in these narratives. When you are trapped in a system designed by a madman, whether it's Spencer's eugenics or the game industry's needs for endless sequels, the only way to be free is to smash the system. Reading through the history of the franchise, you see this pattern over and over. RE1, the mansion explodes. RE2, the lab explodes. RE4, the island explodes. RE5, the volcano. Well, Wesker falls in a volcano, but you get the point. It's always destruction, but usually the heroes escape on an helicopter. They fly away into the sunrise, ready for the next game. The classic, the nightmare's over for now trope. It's almost a meme at this point. Resident Evil Requiem offers a chance to break that helicopter trope. No ride home, just the destruction. It suggests that maybe the Resident Evil, the evil that resides, is actually the survival instinct itself, the refusal to let go. I'm never going to look at a "you died" screen the same way again. It really shifts my perspective on what winning actually means. It challenges the entire definition of a good ending. It forces me to ask, am I the villain for wanting them to survive? Am I the one torturing them by keeping the franchise alive? That leads perfectly into what I wanted to leave you with today. I've unpacked the mechanics, the chainsaws, the memories, and how they set up a world of loops. I've looked at the philosophy of LPs as hope, as a shackle, a gift from a tyrant that you should never accept. I've compared it to Stellar Blade and this idea of refusing a forced evolution. And I've looked at ontology, how I was just chasing the ghosts of 1996. It's a lot to take in for a zombie game. It redefines the stakes entirely, but I think it proves that these games are grappling with something bigger than just jump scares. They are dealing with legacy trauma, and when it's okay to finally say stop, the gift from a tyrant is always a trap. That's the key takeaway here. Spencer offers LPs. The game developers offer sequel. Both are forms of control. Both are asking you to submit to their design. So here's the question I want to chew on the next time you pick up that controller. I love these characters. I love Leon. I grew up with him. But if I constantly demand that my heroes survive the fight another day, am I the one trapping them to survive a horror that never ends? Am I the zombie refusing to let go of the memory of the past, forcing this character to relive their trauma just so I can feel young again? Maybe true love for a character means letting them die, something to explore on your own. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me today, dear Cogitantes. See you on the other side. Happy gaming!